Kali mera kalispera kalinikta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It has been a while, but it's season 2, episode 2. We've got Dan the Man in the house. Let's rock and roll, people, and find out if Arteta's in trouble.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Get Off The Pottsy. And Pottsy, thank you to you for joining Squad Central once again. At ease, how you doing?
Come on, absolute pleasure. Big up to everybody that's here. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed, and you are subscribed, of course, to the Highbury Squad with notification bells on. Absolute pleasure again to come on. Always enjoy coming on Highbury Squad, I must say. And big up to everybody in the chat and all you squaddies, man.
We love you. Our squaddies love you. And thank you to everyone who's joined from Dan's channel as well. You are welcome. And let's rock and roll. There's only one rule here, and that's to hit the like button. Our chief like officer, if you're new to the show, Tammy Steels, will make sure that you have a really good stay. Harvey's here and Mrs. Potts is here. Welcome to you. Carol is in the house. PW's in the house. Whole fam jamily is in the house as well. Welcome, everyone. Right. So I WhatsApped Pottsy last week. And I said to him, right, it's time for another Get Off the Pottsy, and we're going to do top 5. So it was funny, the exchange on the WhatsApp as well, in terms of the ideas for the top 5, right? But we've settled on a subject matter, and the subject matter is MIKEL Arteta. And whether you agree with him or not, whether you love him as manager or not, we decided, and Pottsy decided, that he wanted to do a top 5 things MIKEL Arteta has to do, or now has to do, as the Gunners gaffer, right? And I threw 5 out, and this is Dan's 5. And Dan, let's kick off with number 5. By the way, I think they're all very valid, Mr. Potts. All very valid.
Okay, well, that's good. What is mad is Soph actually texted me while I was at the game at Stamford Bridge, and I was like, do you know what? This looks like something I might need to read later and take after the emotion of this game. So I said that I would be more than happy to do this. And there were some other questions that we discussed, but we can talk about that later, I'm sure. Look, for me, the first thing, unfortunately, it's one that I give him as a non-negotiable, and it's trusting the squad more. I haven't potentially seen this coming as much due to the injuries and the suspensions that we've had, and I thought that there'd be a potential for us to actually look at playing some of these squad players, but you need to trust your squad, man. I asked the question, where's Jorginho? Because not that we need him to score the goals, but actually you can bring a little bit more balance in certain games in our midfield, but I just don't think we've got the transition right there, and I think that there's definitely times where Jorginho is needed to come on and slow the ball down. It isn't when we need to score at Newcastle away. And that's the only time I've seen him so far. Very bizarre. I don't quite get that one. I find that very, very odd. I also don't quite understand the Ethan Nwaneri one. I really can't for the life of me understand what Jesus and Marino have done to be rewarded to come on at Stamford Bridge ahead of Ethan. Ethan's been phenomenal every single game that he's played. And when he has come on, he's 100%, given 110% himself and lifted the crowd. So I don't know that he has got trust in this squad. We've now not seen no trust made in Raheem Sterling, which is his signing, the one that everybody said would be good this season. I do not get why we've got certain individuals in this squad that he's not utilising. Jesus is now just coming on as and when. I thought he was the answer if Havertz needed a break or wasn't cutting the mustard. But we're now seeing Jesus coming out wide a few times and putting out stinkers. So not quite sure that he's got this one right, Soph, and I think it goes back to our summer window again, that if you're not going to trust the squad that you've got, perhaps you need to do more in the summer and definitely more move into the future of January, because I ain't happy with what I'm seeing, if I'm honest with you, bro.
Very interesting, because we did a show with Tom and Harry, and Harry brought up the subject too of Jorginho a couple of weeks ago, and we all agreed And we all agree too that in the absence of Odegaard, maybe I say we all agree, but in the absence of Odegaard, maybe Jorginho was the player to come in and be able to control the tempo of a game, keep control of the ball a little bit more, help out a defense, which really also suffered during Odegaard's absence. A lot of fans want to see Waneri. Mikel Merino, many think that we haven't seen the best of him yet, and there are a lot of people who are patient, saying he has to adapt to the league. Dan as well. He seemed to have a good cameo appearance against Chelsea, could have got a goal. There's this argument about Declan Rice, the 8, the 6. And then there's players like Zinchenko and Jesus and Kivior, who maybe like Aaron Ramsdale, Mikel Arteta thinks that he and the squad have outgrown them. And I wanted to ask you a quick one before we move on to your point number 2 is, do you think when we're investing in players, a turnaround or a cycle for an Arsenal player of just 2 seasons or 3 seasons, and then kind of thinking you need to upgrade, isn't that a good mentality to have, in the sense that that's what Man City's team has gone stale now? But the Liverpool, the City success years, they were able to bring in players that had longevity, versus Arsenal. Maybe do we have to turn it around too much? And is that because we're buying the wrong player, or we're spending the money incorrectly? What's your take on that, based on your point number 1 and trusting the squad?
Some of it's a compliment to the club, because when you're growing or outgrowing players of Zinchenko and Jesus' quality, these are guys that have won trophies. I think it's a compliment to Arsenal and where we've come and where we now are at. I don't think it's a bad thing. Some people will look at it and say, oh, Jesus and Zinchenko aren't good enough. Well, that's not actually a negative, believe it or not, because they would be good enough for lower division clubs, but we're now not the lower division clubs. If people forget that we bought Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus to qualify us into the Champions League, not to win us a title that season. The season they came in, everyone was excited because they thought they could take us into the right direction, and that's what they've done. But now we're trying to win a title. And Man City said, we want Haaland, not Jesus, and we want Gvardiol, not Zinchenko. So we're going to have to get rid of these guys. We're now at that stage as well now. We want to get across the line, and we're trying to now upgrade on Zinchenko and Jesus. And there's a couple of other players, I'm afraid, that are going to have that conversation about. I just think there's an opportunity for us to look at who we actually have got, and if there's an opportunity for him to use some of his players more, or actually look at the players that he only brought in the summer, like Sterling, and ask the question, where is he? He couldn't play at the weekend because obviously we played Chelsea. So where was he against Inter Milan? He's supposed to be one of our impact subs at the moment. And I just feel like he's given up on him already 11 games in, and that's never a good thing. So how much trust did you actually have with that signing? Was that your signing? Was it a panic buy? There's problems there, Soph. And Ethan Waneri, I do not understand what he has to do, not just to start, but to actually get some minutes. You know, Merino, fine, absolutely, he's your player. You've brought him in, and it's one that you really wanted. But the balance in midfield needs to be a little bit better than what I'm seeing so far. And hopefully now we've got Partey, Rice and Odegaard all fit, we might see that a little bit more.
So let me just real quick on the Waneri thing, because Stevie Nicol, Liverpool legend, felt like when a lot of us were wanting him to play in that Liverpool game, he felt that perhaps you have to be careful when you do give him the opportunity to start. Clive Palmer also felt like you can't just throw him into a Liverpool-Chelsea game. Spoke to Arseblog yesterday, feels the same thing. And one of the things I asked them too is, why can Yamin Lamal start for Barcelona week in, week out, and Waneri can't? And the general consensus is the Premier League is much tougher. The La Liga is a lot slower. He has more time on the ball. But we're seeing Waneri in the cups. Now Odegaard is back. If you think Waneri wasn't getting a chance before, Dan, he's not going to get one now. What would go on? What would you like? Where would you like to see him play, and in what kind of games?
So the 3 people you've reeled off there are 3 people that I respect. I love Clive, and I love what Andrew and Stephen Nicol represent, and they know a hell of a lot about the game. But if I'm honest with you, I couldn't disagree more with what all 3 of them have said. And I'll tell you why. I would not mind if Ethan Waneri was on the bench and we were saying we could bring him on, but it's probably best to bring Florian Wirtz on, or it's probably best to bring on Danny Olmo. I would go fair play. But we're talking about, if he don't come on, then it's Mikel Merino, who's still trying to come back from a fractured shoulder, settle into a new league, and it hasn't shown glimpses of quality yet. But actually, what we are comparing that to is Ethan Nwaneri, who at the moment is outplaying players like Sterling, Jesus, even Kai Havertz, Rice and Saka when he was against Bolton, were all on the pitch, and he was by far the best player. We're looking at the opportunity now of comparing him with a Foden and a Fabregas. And I can understand why people might look at that and go, well, Foden was surrounded by David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne trying to get ahead of them guys, Bernardo Silva. Fabregas was trying to get in the team ahead of Vieira and Gilberto Silva. It's completely different. This guy's not surrounded by those when Ødegaard was out. He had Saka to his right and Martinelli to his left, who were probably in the same high school years as him. Not long. I mean, what, they're 4 years older than him? So these aren't players you look up to as role models trying to get ahead of. So for me, I think Ethan was there to be used. And now that we haven't seen him, we're not going to see him anything more than the Carabao Cup games. I think we could have utilised him alongside Ødegaard in the 8 in certain games of late. And I also think we could have replaced him because Trossard was stinking out the joint for a few games. So there's definitely been opportunities to play him without that.
Yeah. And maybe Mikel learned from Pep about Phil Foden and how he morphed Phil Foden, and they were screaming for Foden to start as well, weren't they? Okay, number 2 for you, Mr. Potts.
Yeah, this one is one that I've been asking a lot of people in the fan base at the moment. What is our style of play? I need to see one because I've seen so many different styles under Mikel Arteta, which is not a bad thing because it proves that he can adapt. I need to see him stick with one now. Don't do this kind of, I'm going to play this against them and this against that. Have your identity and go for it, because what I've seen is actually a change every single season. I need to see more attack. We've got some players who can score goals. Don't tell me that we haven't. Yeah, Saka scored 15 to 16 goals, 30 good GA. Martinelli 2 years ago got 15. Ødegaard 2 years ago got 15. Havertz last season got 15 or close to it. So we've got guys that can score in our team, but something's not right at the moment. I think it is really sad that in 5 years, £700 million spent, that we're now putting 40 crosses into the box and hoping that one of them gets on the bounce to someone and goes in. That is not a style of play. That's a part of how you play the last 20 minutes when you need a goal. That's not how you start from minute 1. And that's what we've been doing, unfortunately. So I need to see this style come back from the season of 22-23, when we were blitzing teams, we shocked teams, when we were scintillating to watch. Everybody was jealous of us. And not only jealous, Soph, they were scared, man. I remember speaking to Kev and he was saying, people are scared of us now, Pottsy. And I was thinking, why is that? Because we're playing well. We're attack-minded. We're going for it. That's why we want. That's what we want to be seeing, right? That's what we were likening Arteta for his Pep tactics for, because it was so attractive to watch. But it seems in the first season, there was an excuse as to why we weren't doing it, because it weren't having his players. That was the first season where we had his team, and it's like, right, now this is the style of play we want. And I haven't seen that since. The first season, it was Tierney and Luiz lumping it up to Aubameyang. Cool. Fine by me. It won us an FA Cup. The season after that, it was a little bit stale because he was taking some players out, bringing some players in, and he was trying to adapt to what he wanted as an identity. The season after that, yeah, we ended up going very, very close to Tottenham and missing out on the last day of the season with some attack style in play. But really, it was the youngsters that were putting us through. Martinelli, Smith-Rowe, Sakas, etc. And then we went and bought Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, got an inverted left, had Xhaka balling out in a new position. Jesus was brought in, and the first 3 months was electric. And Saka and Martinelli and Ødegaard formed this formidable attacking three. And I was thinking, this is scintillating stuff. And then I think what he did was he got PTSD in the next 2 seasons, this season and the last one, and thought, I can't play like that because I'm going to definitely concede goals. So I need to be more resolute, more compact, and look at more defensive options. And I just feel now we've turned a little bit into David Moyes' style of football, because people have compared him to Mourinho and Diego Simeone and Conte and stuff. But the difference is, so if they were winning games 1-0 and 2-1 playing like that, we're losing games 1-0 and 2-1 playing like this. That's not the way to do it. So I think he needs to go back to the basics of, why were you selected as Arsenal manager, and why was people excited for you learning from Pep? Because Pep doesn't play like this. So I need to see that attack-minded style come back now.
Okay, so I'll throw this back at you. Of course, we've had the injury to Martin Ødegaard, which has stifled the attack. You can't just, though, rely on one player to be the nucleus of everything, but there is every team's nucleus of everything, and there's no doubt Martin Ødegaard was that. Martinelli went off the boil. It just seems like nobody's played really well all season. They've all decided to be crap at the same time. I'm going to throw another one back at you here, that Clive mentioned, because I'd love to get your take on this, Dan. And I asked you, Tom and Harry, about Manchester City, and did that game affect us more than we're letting on, i.e., so close to beating them, the result that everybody wanted and wished for, and we should have got, but for a mental lapse at the end. And I asked you boys, and I said, did that hurt us mentally? And you all felt like, yeah, it's a bit of a blow, but you move on. You know what Clive said, and I thought this was interesting. He felt that the defensive performance at Manchester City gave Mikel Arteta a new idea. Not because he hasn't been defensive before, but the resiliency you talk about and the fact that we've become a lot more conservative. I said, to me, it seems more fearful management than the fearless management we've seen from him in the last two seasons. Do you think that the wall that we put up that day, and do you agree that that gave Mikel Arteta, who likes a new idea, a new strategy?
This is going to come on to another point I'm going to come on to, but I'm not going to go into it too much because I'll say more there. But we were doing that before Man City in certain games. I saw it against Spurs. I saw it against Aston Villa. And we managed to get across the line in those games. Maybe the Man City game was on top of that to say, do you know what? Actually, yeah, let's just do this now because it's working. But I would argue to say that in the first half against Manchester City, we didn't do that. We actually really went toe-to-toe with them. Yeah, we scored from a set piece and it was a great one from Gabriel. But we were the better team attack-minded after that first 20 minutes when Rodri went off. We were definitely better than Manchester City, playing attack-minded football. So I just don't quite understand why we've gone so far overcautious with this defensive style. Now, if you're winning it 1-0, Soph, as I've said before, I'm cool with it. But imagine going this style of football and losing games. This is why West Ham wanted rid of David Moyes, because you weren't winning that game, that style of play, and it's boring to watch. This was why Conte wanted Tottenham wanted Conte gone, because it was, we're losing 1-0 and we're playing crap football. If you're winning 1-0, it's great. We grew up on George Graham. We knew that, right? So when you ain't winning 1-0...
You could also argue that West Ham made a bad decision because Lopetegui's no improvement on Moyes. So
I think it was a bad decision. I think it was a horrendous decision, in fact. Not only do I think the grass ain't always greener, but if you're going to get rid of Moyes, why the hell would you put him in charge? Let's be real.
Exactly.
You've got to go for someone else, right? So that's what I would do say to answer that. Like, it isn't a light bulb moment of, and excuse the pun, because I know he likes light bulbs. It wasn't a light bulb moment to think, wow, we're going to now play our season out like this. I think the opportunity was there to say, actually, we can play like this when we go down to 10 men, and we can do it well. But let's not make the most of that. Let's not do that every single game. Let's not get used to that. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, everyone, hit the like button if you're enjoying this. We're going to bring Vinny out just especially for Siraj. Go on, Vinny, hit that like button. And Vespa is channeling her inner David Raya. Go on, Vessi, saving it. Look at that. She's ready to start. There's no doubt about that. All right, Pottsy, what is your third Mikel Arteta has to now do as Arsenal manager?
So look, this one is coming on off the back of what we've just discussed. It's actually a nice segue, to be fair. I need to see more faith and resilience from him and have more belief in himself, because actually when you look at this chopping and changing, we've seen different styles of play, we've seen different players coming into different formations, we've seen different setups, we've seen inverted fullbacks, non-inverted fullbacks, going back to fat fours. I need him to stop chopping and changing this. I would rather him do one thing and complete it well than do 16 things and half complete them. Stop trying to change everything. And I understand that he made the analogy that you can get in a car and go down the A1, end up on the A120, go to the M6 and then go to the M25. But actually, you end up just going around in circles and get lost if you do that, Mikel, right? So let's just go a two-way journey. Let's have a destination and let's get there. Because for me, all we had to do in the season of 22-23, when we threw it away at West Ham, Liverpool and Southampton, and then we couldn't beat Brighton and Forest, was say, right, why did we not do that? We probably need to buy a centre forward. We probably need to sort out some of the depth in terms of our midfield. And we might need to give Saka and Saliba some cover, because if they get injured, we're probably not going to be able to replace them. But instead, he just thought, that don't work. Scrunch it up, throw it away, and let's start saying, no, we're going to now be hard to beat. And we're going to be a Tony Pulis side. And I don't get why he did that. And then he's kind of tried bits and pieces, half and half. I'm going to make Havertz my midfield. No, that's not worked. Let's scroll that one out. He's now on number 9. I'm going to put Partey at right back. Oh, that don't work. He better come back in the 6. I'm going to buy that number 6 Declan Rice, and I'm going to not put him in the 6. I'm going to put him in the 8, actually. He's now going to be my 8. This Timber kid is going to replace Ben White at right back. Oh, no, actually, let's play him on the left. No, actually, I don't want him on the left now because he got injured. I better go and buy another one. Let's get that Calafiori. He can come in on the left now. Let's try and replace Granit Xhaka now with Marino. Oh, actually, ain't Rice playing there? Oh, crikey, what's going on? This is all too much, Soph. This is way too confusing for everybody watching and everybody playing, I'm sure. Stick to one thing, man. Why we got all these? I'm all for versatility, by the way, but have a number one plan. Don't have 5 plans. And this is what I don't like about it. Sometimes it's way too much overthinking. It's way too. I mean, the guy looks stressed as hell this season. I've not seen him relax once, Mikel. It's like this all over the pitch. Sit down. You can't be calm down. You're confusing the hell out of everyone. You are so manic. And he reminds me of someone I used to work with who used to have 16 ideas and just blah, 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 blah. They all went out to me. And I'm like, well, one of those might work. So let's stick with that one first. And if it doesn't, maybe we'll choose another one. Like, this guy is thinking of way too much, Soph. It's got to calm down. It's got to go back to basics for me.
So this is the part that worries me a little bit, in the sense that taking the Pep kind of philosophy, right? The difference is Pep has won at the highest level at every club that he's been at, and the players that he's had at these clubs where he's been able to. Some people will credit Pep for reinventing the game. Others will say that it's a slight on creativity. You just don't see that flair player anymore. It's not allowed because it's a possession-based game. It's playing out from the back. You don't see the wingers flying down the wing every single week. And that has kind of created this, maybe for a lot of people, boring style of football. But what would you say if I said to you that because of the adversity that he's faced this season, he is managing more fearful than fearless, i.e., why is he going to take a risk when he's already kind of lost players? You've got 10 men, 3 games with 10 men. You've got 2 games in Italy where, you know, some would say we played so well against Inter Milan, and I will say, well, it wasn't good enough to win the game, was it? What do you say to all of that? That he's been put in this position, so he has to play this way.
So there's 2 things I would say. One, if you believe you're good enough, you shouldn't have to do anything you don't want to do. And 2, if you can't stand the heat, then you need to get out of the kitchen. Because this is what managing Arsenal's about. Yeah, it's pressure. Every season that people say is Mikel under pressure. He was under pressure on day 1 for me. This ain't a give it a go here, have a bit of an experiment, mate, and in 5 years we'll see how you're done. This is Arsenal. This ain't Wigan. Like, this is what we've got to be looking at seriously now this season. And there is pressure under Mikel Arteta to deliver. Of course there is. There's no more processes. There's no more phases. There's no more transfer windows needed. For me, this is, you are ready now, deliver. Now, you can go back and we'll come on to it in a minute about other people involved in his role at the moment this season, which I think have got in the way of what he's wanted to do at times. But that's for later on in the show. But I need to look at some of his in-game management and his tactics. And I need to say, right, why are you doing that then? Because you might think you're under pressure right now, but how do you think that going to Inter Milan and just flinging balls into the box and hoping that Gabriel gets his bonce on one to win 1-0, do you think that is how you win games of football now? Is that what you got into your head next? This is what I'm saying. I think we need to be looking at where we were successful under Mikel Arteta. And I look at the reign and I think successful under Mikel Arteta was actually winning the FA Cup. But the style of play wasn't too successful, really, because it got us through 2 games of football against Chelsea and City. Right, where we lumped it up to Aubameyang. We don't have him anymore. We don't have lump it up and see if someone can run onto it and score, because Havertz ain't that guy. So I think we look at when we were most successful under Mikel Arteta, and it was that 2022-2023 season, because we were scintillating to watch, Sophie. I was doing content and I was loving it. Everyone was going, oh, we can't roast Potts today. He's won again. Oh, he's won again. They look the best team in the world right now. It's unbelievable. No one's been saying that. The only other time that we sort of had it was when we come back from Dubai last season, and people keep saying, go to Dubai again, because everyone wants us to come back from Dubai playing the way that we were, because we were absolutely blowing teams away. People think it was because we had easy fixtures, because we beat Palace 5, so we beat West Ham's by 6, Sheffield United by 6, 5 against Burnley, but we beat Liverpool 3-1 at home at the Emirates in that period as well. We were flying. So that's what I need to be seeing, man. I've got to be seeing that. Okay,
that's fair enough. Let's go to number 4.
This
is definitely a Dan like move, right?
This is me, and I've got evidence to justify it as well now, because I'm actually I'm actually fed up of the kind of protection that ownership gets sometimes by the fan base. But let me come into it. I think he needs to put more pressure on the Cronkies this summer now. This January window now to help him out, because he's got no technical director. He's got a guy that's been put in interim charge while they select who they want. He needs to now go up to these Cronkies and go, "We're 9 points behind Liverpool. Can you help me? Because I need a couple of players in here. I need to go and get a forward, and I need to go and get an attacker that's going to help me if Ødegaard is out." Because for me, Saka being out, Ødegaard being out, is proven that Jesus and Sterling aren't that. And even Waneri, we don't believe is ready because we're not playing him. And at the moment, I've only got Kai. And when Kai ain't there, I don't trust anyone else in the 9. And when Saka ain't there, we don't win games because look at Bournemouth, it can cope without him. When Ødegaard isn't there, we can't create stuff. So I need you to help me, guys. And Cronkies, if you're as great as what everyone's telling me you are, you will help him. And you will deliver and you will spend money. Because if you look at what they've put in, it's 200 million so far in 20 years of their own cash. That is all they've put in. 200 million in 20 years. That ain't enough for ambition.
Okay, so let me throw this back at you. Everyone wants our owners to be Abramovich, and that's never going to happen. That's not how Arsenal like to run the business. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but when the downfall comes, when you have that type of owner, you've seen what it's done to Chelsea. Now, some people will say Chelsea have bounced back very soon. They've actually not been great for a while, and if you ask most Chelsea fans, if they're not competing for the title and not in the Champions League, and especially with the late run, when we've seen the history and the pedigree they have, that's not a good Chelsea. So when you look at what they've given and what they have given to Edu and Mikel Arteta, they've handed them the keys to the kingdom. You know, at 100 million on Declan Rice. I mean, it's not the case of they're not. And I think they've had more hits than misses, but the misses have been so bad and so glaring. You can, it's easy to look back now and say, Jesus, oh man, he's just a terrible buy. In that first season, his personality, the way he played, off the ball especially, he was part of the reason why Arsenal 2.0 was born. The same with Zinchenko. That mistake at Liverpool, he will never live it down. He became the new scapegoat a la Xhaka. I'm not saying those guys are good enough for this team. But I do think when you look at Benjamin White, Calafiori, Marino, Declan Rice, Trossard, you look at all of these players that they've given those guys the toolbox, and Edu and Mikel have decided which tools to buy. The Cronkies they're not that, and you don't want them to be that. So it's not like they haven't been supported, Dan.
So let me come back on two things there. The first thing is everyone wants to be run like Roman Abramovic. I agree with you. That isn't going to be realistic because he's the only person I've ever known. He's by far the best football owner that anyone's ever known in terms of expenditure and spend what you want and give him what you want, right? That isn't going to happen. I'm not asking him to be like Roman Abramovich. I'm just asking him to show a little bit of ambition to get us across the line. Because if you want ambition to get top four, they're the best owners to go that I've known. Because we had a manager that did it for 20 years running under their ownership. We've had a manager now who's managed to get us Champions League football, and we're cool with that, and they seem cool with it. My question to them is, where is your ambition in transfer windows? Now, let me give you some evidence as to why I've not been happy with the Cronkies for quite some time now. And you know, this is no shock to you, but it might be to some of the viewers, right? I'm going to go back now before Mikel Arteta, and I said this with Lee earlier. We had Robin van Persie and Cesc Fabregas in our team, who were two wonderful, wonderful players. Probably two of the best that Emirates have seen in the era, right? But we had no central defensive midfielder. We were trying to make do with Song and Denilson and Coquelin. And then when we thought, actually, let's go and get our defensive midfield sorted, we had the Aubameyangs and Lacazettes, and it was like, we've got the striker now. But then it's like, where's our defence then? Because we've got Socrates, David Luiz and Mustafi. Take it back to Ozil and Sanchez. They're trying to feed who? Olivier Giroud. Now, I like Olivier Giroud, but you ain't putting a through ball through to him from Ozil, for him to run onto it, take it around everyone and score. He's a guy who stands up there and makes a nuisance of himself and runs into the near post and flicks it, right? He doesn't run at everyone like Thierry Henry style. So where's our striker there? He's the only one we had. We needed help for Giroud. Everyone said sell Giroud. No, we needed Giroud, but we needed help for him, just like we need help for Kai. I don't want to sell Kai Havertz. I want help for him up top. And now I feel like we're there again. And every single team that I'm talking about there, the Cronkies have overseen. And then you've got the likes. This was happening under Rausan Leahy. This was happening with Sven Mislintat, Husfami, even Gazidis. This was happening with Edu. It's happening in this regime now. I need to see this change now. And I need them to go up to Mikel, and I need Mikel to say to them, look, what are we doing here? Because we clearly need some more players here. It's January. What are you going to give me? Are you going to help me here? Because when that summer window closed, Sophie, there was people like myself, Turkish, I think there was troops at the time, league judges, were all getting absolute pelters, all of us, because we said that weren't good enough. Oh, get behind it. Sterling's going to be fine. He's the next Saka. Arteta knows what he's doing. He's going to get the best out of him. Kai Havertz will get 30 goals. Martinelli will find his form. Erdegaard's one of the best in the world, and you'll be put in the mud. And now, what are they saying? Oh, well, yeah, you were right, but we just got to make do with it now, haven't we? There's not much we can do about it now. No, don't give me that. Stay over there. You told me this was a brilliant window. What are you talking about? You give it 8 out of 10. This is not an 8 out of 10 window. And this is why I get frustrated, because the Cronkies, for me, are just getting away with it again, saying, oh, they want Sterling. They're all happy. Oh, that'll do us. Brilliant. We're paying off their wages, Chelsea. This is lovely, Ed. Stan, I've done it again. Oh, Josh, well done, Josh. No money spent again. Another 200 million that we've spent in 20 years. Well done. No, man, that shows some ambition. So hang on a minute. You sure you want Sterling? Do you want us to go and get that Gyökeres guy who's banging in goals? Or do you want Kudus from West Ham? Oh, yeah, we'll take that, please. Look, I don't know what happens. I don't know if there are conversations that have or have not taken place, Soph, but from the outside looking in, they can't tell me, you cannot tell me that they're sitting there going, right, don't buy anyone else. This is a blind. We've got Marino, Calafiori and Sterling. Man City are quaking in their boots. They're not. I can tell you Man City fans and Liverpool fans on my channel howling, going, oh, Arsenal aren't serious. These Cronkies are brilliant. Nah, man, I'm sick of it. I need to see ambition to win, not ambition to get top 4. I need to see ambition, man. So I want him going up to the ownership and saying, I need help. I ain't got Edu no more. I need you to put me someone in charge, and I'm going to select these 2-3 players that I want you to go and get in January, because you spent £70 million in the summer and we're paying half of the bloody Chelsea guys' wages here on loan that I don't want anymore, that I don't bring on anymore. So we got to see something better now, man.
Okay. If there's one thing you can't argue with, is that Dan expresses his opinions and backs up his points. And I hear what you're saying. No, I love it, because you've been passionate about this particular subject for a long time. The Cronkies were never going to hand the keys over to the kingdom until they were full owners of the club. We've talked about that a lot on our show. They're business people at the end of the day. But they've also run very successful businesses, and people hate it when I compare their US sports teams to Arsenal. Well, they're sports owners, right? And they're hiring some of the smartest people to do the job. And some people will get mad at me for saying that too. But when I stand in front of someone and I'm talking to them, I know if they're smart or they're an idiot. They used to have idiots running Arsenal, but they do not have idiots running Arsenal now. That I can assure you of from firsthand experience. Do I think that, the way the things happened with the LA Rams, it took patience, unfortunately, right? They found the missing pieces. They believe in their young coaches. Sean McVay went to a Super Bowl, lost it, went to a championship game, lost it. The Colorado Avalanche were kind of broken. They reinvested, they rebuilt them. They won the Stanley Cup. They're doing the same thing right now with the Colorado Rapids, their football team. Chris Armas, who everyone laughed at when he was Ralph Rangnick's number 2 at Manchester United, is kind of an Arteta-infused guy that's helping them rebuild that. The Denver Nuggets, they took a lot of risks. A lot of fans were upset with them. They end up winning the NBA championship. Even their lacrosse team won the national championship. And I've always felt like Arsenal's the next big thing for them. Now, last season, Dan, you could argue that some people said this was the best Arsenal team we've seen since the early 2000s, because every facet of the team was working. So I hear you. I've said a lot of the times, we had Ozil, we had Santa, we had Alexis. We didn't have any backup. We had a shit defense, and we had Olivier Giroud up front. I hear all of that. But last season, we had Benjamin. We were talking about the best centre-back partnership. Ben White being the best right-back maybe in the Premier League. You had Odegaard, you had Declan Rice, who was firing on all cylinders. Thomas Partey was up and down, but came up good when he needed to. You had Odegaard scoring goals. You had Kai Havertz scoring goals, Saka scoring goals. You had Trossard scoring goals. I think the only team in Europe with 4 players on double digits. We scored the most. So it's easy for us to say, and I'm not the defense lawyer of the Cronkies here at all, but it's easy for us to say it now because we're in adversity this season. But there's no doubt that that symphony you're talking about and working across all units was present last season.
So everything you've just said is absolutely spot on.
Sorry, I don't know why I left the picture on the whole time. I was into what I was saying.
I like the picture.
It's better than me, that's for sure.
The problem I'm seeing with this, right, is you've just said absolute facts that we're talking about this side being one of the best it's been since we were successful winning trophies at the highest of levels. But it still weren't enough, Soph. So yeah, Declan Rice was talked about. So was Saliba and Gabriel. Saka balling out. Erdegaard superb to watch. And that wasn't enough. So what do we do now? Do we just say, get that right and get to second place? Or do we go to the ownership and say, right, I've done all I can here to get us and we're still falling. What do you think we need? Everyone knows. It's not like, I don't know, there's nothing else we need. We're just brilliant. Like, what are we supposed to do? It's just, we're too good. No, we clearly need another bit of strength in depth. If I said to you, Soph, if you rung me up and said, Dan, I've just bloody crashed my Porsche 911, I'd be like, oh my God, you all go, yeah, I'm good, but I need to get another car. Here we go, mate. Here's a Vauxhall Astra. You'd be like, oh, Christ, well, that will do me for now. But when do I get my Porsche 911 back or my Ferrari upgrade? Well, you don't, mate. You just got to make do with your Vauxhall Astra and get round in that and try and look flashy in it. You'd be like, well, I'll try, but I'm not too sure I can. That's what we've done with Raheem Sterling. That's what we've done. We wanted Nico Williams. We end up with Raheem Sterling. We're linked with the Isaks and the Gyökeres of this world, and we've been told, now, mate, do with Havertz and Jesus. Who is that? Is it Edu and Arteta saying we don't want a striker? Has the Cronkies gone there and gone, right, here's 200 million, and they go, whoa, we don't want that much. We just want Raheem Sterling on loan for the thing. That's all we need. Which one is it? Is it the Cronkies going, here's the cash? Or is it Arteta and Edu going, you know, could we have some? And they're going, no, we don't want to give you any. Which one is it? We don't know. We don't know. All I will say is I have to go with a common denominator. And it ain't Arteta because he ain't been here for 20 years. But I tell you who has been here for 20 years. Josh and Stan. That's where I'm at.
All right. And by the way, real quick before we move to the last one here, I may be in a camp on my own, but I think Sterling's been really mishandled by Mikel since he arrived. I think he's shown himself in the cup games, and in the Bournemouth game, to me, he seemed like one of the most dangerous players going forward, but he was the sacrificial lamb after the Saliba sending off. And I think he has deserved to start over Jesus all the time. And would you agree or disagree with that?
I would agree wholeheartedly that he deserves to play ahead of Gabriel Jesus. And I thought that that potentially there was a bit of a misunderstanding of why Raheem Sterling was not getting on. And then I saw something today on one of the AFC sites that suggested that he's kind of given up on him due to what he's seen lack of ambition-wise in his training. Now, I don't know how much of that is true, but ex-scout Mick Brown says that there's concerns about Sterling. Getting him on loan was seen as a real coup because Chelsea is still paying most of his wages, but when they're looking for results, he doesn't seem to come on. It points to some clear issues behind the scenes, and I'm hearing that this training might not be completely up to scratch. We know Arteta's demands a certain level from his players, and he isn't scared to leave them out if they're not meeting his expectations. And that, to me, answers my question. He is clearly not impressing behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's funny too. One thing I will say about Mikel Arteta, and that insight is interesting. Of course, whether or not it's true, we'll see. But the ruthlessness that Mikel Arteta possesses, you would like to see that, you know, with making decisions about players playing, because Trossard doesn't deserve to start, and he's been a great super sub for us, but Kivior played one bad game against Bayern Munich, and I'm not saying he's at the level that Arsenal need to be in order to win, Dan, but he came in handy for 10 or so games last season. But Kivior's career at Arsenal has not been the same, and I had heard that affected Kivior, and he felt the cold shoulder and the less belief, and that really affected Kivior. So there are a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But I think there needs to be a consistency in the ruthlessness as well. What is your number 5, Super Pots?
Well, look, the last one at 5 is a very interesting one because for me, I don't think people have spoken about it enough. The only person actually that I will give credit to that's mentioned this alongside myself is actually Harry Symeou, which is always a worry when me and Harry are agreeing. However, what I will say is that I don't think it's been spoken about enough. Look, our attack is clearly blunt at the moment and we are still conceding goals, but there's nothing to suggest that we aren't stacked in defence and that we haven't got players that can actually put the ball in the back of the net. The department and the area that I've been disappointed with has actually been our midfield, Soph, and I think he needs to get this right now. I need to see this midfield working in an Arteta way that he believes we can get through in terms of our transition, but also playing players in their actual position, because I have seen so many mismatches in our midfield for the best part of 2 or 3 seasons now. Since Granit Xhaka has gone missing last season, in the 8, I've seen Smith Rowe play there, Kai Havertz play there, Fabio Vieira play there, Trossard play there, and Declan Rice play there. This season, Declan Rice has been moved there. Marino's kind of played there. We've had Nwaneri come on there at one stage. In the 10, of course, at the moment, it's been Trossard without Ødegaard and Nwaneri a couple of times, Marino in one of the games. In the 6, I've seen Partey play there. Not so much Jorginho, as we mentioned earlier, but Declan Rice has been asked to play there as well. What is your best 11? What is your midfield trio? I don't think Declan Rice is an 8. I think he's the 6. The problem I've got is Thomas Partey at the moment has been our best midfielder this season, so he has to play there. So therefore, I think you look at Declan Rice and potentially think that he is now our 8 and Ødegaard's our 10. Maybe we need to see that more when it's fit, because Ødegaard and Rice weren't against Chelsea. Maybe it will work, but I need to see it work, because I think our midfield in the last 2 years has been an issue. I really do. And I think it's going to continue to be an issue, Sophie, because we've got Partey and Jorginho that we don't know what's happening at the end of this season. Are they both going? Their contracts are up. Where is Marino and what is he? I haven't seen enough from him at all, I've got to say. And I know that he's only just joined and we've got to give him more time. But my goodness, I don't know what he is. I don't know if he's a 10, an 8, a 6, or a little bit of everything. Then you've got Ødegaard. I think we've got to see him coming into the mix in the 10. And then obviously we've got Rice and Partey and Jorginho there. That, let's be real, probably 3 of the best options we've got in the Premier League, to be fair, in the 6. But yeah, man, that's where I'm at with this midfield.
So you've kind of said, mentioned all those players, and some fans think that, okay, Thomas Partey is surprising everyone so far this season, and everyone thinks it's because, you know, he's a player playing in a contract season. Regardless, he's been one of our most productive players. But is there a case that an Ødegaard, Rice in the 6, and Marino playing the Xhaka role would work for you? Or do you think that Arsenal should be aiming to go get a Zubimendi, who probably will go to Liverpool? But what does your midfield look like, Dan?
So before a ball was kicked, I had the fear that both Partey and Jorginho would be the equivalent of El Neni of last year, that we'd see him if we had to, see him both if we had to. I've been really pleasantly surprised to see Partey playing well in the 6 and playing a lot of games in the 6. So before a ball was kicked, I had Rice in the 6, Marino in the 8, and Ødegaard in the 10. That was what I thought it was going to be. Because of the injuries that we've had to both Marino and Ødegaard, we haven't seen that. So it could be that when everybody's fit, Mikel Arteta might see that as their 3. He might look at Rice and say, yeah, you're not an 8, which clearly he isn't, by the way. He's definitely not a Gerrard or a Lampard. He's definitely a Carrick or a Rodri, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Some people want him to be the Gerrard of Arsenal. He ain't going to be a Fabregas or a Gerrard of Arsenal, people. He just isn't. He isn't that type of player. He's a destroyer. He's an anchor. He leads us from that angles. So for me, I think he has to play in the 6, and then you use Partey and Jorginho as the backup to him. And then you've got Marino in the 8 and then Ødegaard in the 10. So I would argue that we need to go and get an 8, not a Zubimendi or a Tchouameni or somebody like that. I think we need to go and get somebody like a Frankie de Jong or somebody like a Bruno Guimaraes or somebody in there that actually does play that 8 role and you think, oh, yeah, you're starting. Like Marino, big up to you. You're a 30 million squad player, but now you're going to be on the bench. You're playing Rice, de Jong and Ødegaard, or Rice, Guimaraes and Ødegaard. That's what we want to be seeing for me. So I think that's the angle we need to go down. What I don't want is to buy another 6 and then end up with Rice, another 6, Partey and Jorginho, and we've got 4 6s and only 1 8. So we need to actually be sensible about this moving forward. But he's got to get it right, Mikel Arteta. This is his vision. Every single one of those players he's bought. So he must have bought them for a reason. He must want them. This isn't like when he walked and he had like El Neni and he had Lucas Torreira and Guendouzi, which he had to sift through, and Granit Xhaka. These are all his players. I think he genuinely wants to play Rice, Marino and Ødegaard. That's what I think his dream midfield is going to be. So we'll have to see when everyone's fit, where he goes with it. I don't care who he plays. I need to just see it working. So I'm not going to sit there and go, wow, this midfield is really working, but I wish he weren't playing these 3. So I don't really rate them. I don't care. I need to get them both playing. I need to see them playing because I trust me when I say this. defensively and in attack. If we get that midfield right, the transition right, we will score more goals. Look at Manchester City with Rodri. Look how much they're struggling right now without him. Big time struggling. That's how important players like that are, you know? Midfield's massively important.
It really is. I mean, City are also missing De Bruyne, Doku, Grealish. They have a lot of issues, and I've no sympathy for them whatsoever. But we can't continue to be a squad that, with one or two injuries, things go off the rails. And those are the lessons that I'd like to see Mikel and the club learn from. There was no answer to Odegaard. You know, you could argue we allowed 2 players to leave that could have filled the Odegaard role. He is not, you know, RoboCop. He's not like Terminator 2. He too has played a lot of games, and I agree with you about those were the opportunities to give to Waneri, but we can't continue to complain about being thin or complaining about injuries at the wrong time of the season, and that being the reason why we don't win. For me, it's a no excuses season in the sense that you need to win something. I would love to win the League Cup and have that galvanize the team to go to the end of the season and get that taste of winning together. You and I have talked about it a lot, Dan. The first episode of Get Off The Pottsy was about winning a domestic cup. So what do you, how do you want to, what was I going to say? Your end is always your one thing about Get Off The Pottsy, but for shits and kicks, I'm going to show everyone what I had put together. Okay. At number 5 was Stay Humble. I know everyone's utilizing this against Mikel, but for me, there is this humbleness that is, you can be arrogant, you could be cocky arrogant, but in times of adversity, I think he's grown to be a little bit more humble, but I also think that we can't make excuses for the time that he's been at the club. You expect better results right now. Number 4 was get to a cup final and win it. It would be great to be able to get to the Carabao Cup final. The FA Cup seems like such a long distance ago. The other thing was play Waneri, give him the opportunity. The second one is you have to finish above Liverpool and Chelsea. There is no excuse for Chelsea to be able to catch up to us to the levels that they have. Liverpool had the infrastructure and the architecture, at least 4 world-class players, Dan. Arne Slot inherited a great team. He's been able to go about quietly with his business because at the start of the season, it was always about Jurgen Klopp and his legacy. And I think Liverpool doing well and having them on our shoulder has really rattled not only, I think, Arsenal, but also fans as well. And this one for me, win the Premier League. That was early in the season. And I felt like we had the opportunity. It's not over for me, Dan. I really don't think it is. Liverpool are going to have to go through a moment of adversity. They're going to have to play Manchester United, who have really done well against them in big moments. Manchester City, I think people are writing off way too soon because those players will come back. And I believe that we, similarly to last year, going through a bad patch and not finding our best football until January, the only difference is the points difference because we've proven that we can do that. Before you give us your final Get Off the Pottsy, let me know, do you think the title is still possible?
I don't think the title is possible right now. That could change. As we are on the 12th of November, I think we're out of the title race. Because I just believe that the way that we're playing, forget the fact we're 9 points, forget the fact we're 5 off City, look at the way we're playing, it is not good enough to win a title right now. That could change, Soph. We could go through, do another show in December, January, and I could be going, wow, look at where we are right now. Look at who we've just signed. Look at what position we're in. We're in a great position. That can change. Football is mad. Think about it. In Manchester City's next 2 games, when they come back from the international break, they could be out of the title race. They lose to Spurs and Liverpool, which at the way they're playing at the moment, they could do. They go 11 points behind Liverpool. They could be out of it. Football's mad. It's absolutely mad. So, yeah, right now, I don't see it, and things could change. So you have to really just say it how it is sometimes.
Okay, so what's your Get Off the Pottsy to close episode 2?
So this one for me is a bit of a strange one, and people might kind of not take this the wrong way, but they might kind of be confused by this. I want you to use something, people. I want you to use your ears.
Oh,
And I want you to listen. Now, this isn't me saying my opinion's right before everyone thinks I'm going to say that. I've seen a lot of kind of debate. I've seen a lot of abuse from people, not just towards me. I'm used to that now. But I've seen a lot of people that kind of come at others for their opinions or their difference of opinions. But actually, instead of screaming at each other and saying you're a clown, you're wrong, you're absolutely awful fan, rah, rah, actually just listen to what they're saying and you might learn something, because I do. I listen to people like Tom Canton, Harry Symeou, Clive Palmer, 3 people I disagree with a lot about football. But I learn quite a lot from them because it makes me see things differently. I open my eyes. And likewise, they've said it to me as well. I didn't think of it like that. I've seen so many people at the moment, judges must be on the payroll. He's so positive now. What's going on? It's a lot of kind of pointing fingers and complaining and becoming quite negative about people's opinions. And this goes for me as well. I could have somebody come up to me and say, I think Mikel Arteta is the best manager I've ever laid my eyes upon. I think he is an absolute genius. And anyone who thinks he needs to go out needs their red testing. Now, I've got 2 ways. I can go, wow, why do you think that? Or, oh, that's interesting. Or I can go, you idiot, what a clown, what an idiot, get out of this club, you're awful. But I don't do the latter. I sit there and I go, okay, let's talk, let's debate. Why do you think that? And it goes for the other as well, Soph. People that think he's a clown and he needs to go out now, why do you think that? Talk to me. Let's see if we can learn something. Try and see it from your point of view. But we don't do that enough, I don't think. And of course, I'm not talking about on shows and on YouTube and on podcasts. I'm talking about in social media world, because I see so much of it on my timeline and other timelines of people. And I think, are people okay? Like, are you actually wanting us to be successful then? Because what I'm seeing is just a lot of people wanting to, I was right, he was wrong, I was right, he was wrong. See, what does that achieve? What does being right? Do you get a trophy for that? Or do you get a trophy for when Arsenal win the league? Because last time I checked, you don't get a trophy for I was right, we won nothing. Or I was right, we won something. So I just think people need to actually look at it and say, do you know what? Like, let's actually look at what people are saying right now. You know, Nathan in the chat, you've got more flip-flops. Yeah, I've flip-flops on stuff before because it's called changing your opinion. 100%. I can say at one stage, I think we are absolutely winning this league because we look absolutely outstanding and we by far the best team. That opinion could change. I could say right now that I don't think the Cronkies are serious and showing ambition. That could change in January. We go by Gyökeres and Kudus or something mad like that, or Kvaratskhelia comes in. I'm going, whoa, okay, maybe I was wrong. Does that make me a flip-flop? Cool. If it does, go for it. If people think I'm offended by people calling me a flip-flop, then I'll get a couple of pairs out for you because I've got enough in my wardrobe. Do you know what I mean? So trust me, just listen and learn from people and enjoy it, because this is what we do, man.
Yeah, I can listen. This is, I think it mirrors society a lot, you know, unfortunately. And if you believe in one thing and you don't believe in the other, you're X, you're Y, you're Z. And social media, as great as it has been connecting people, it is also a cesspool of insults and abuse. And I think as long as you are not being racist, misogynistic, homophobic, and all of those other things, you can have an opinion. But being hateful too is unacceptable. And you can have an opinion about the manager, and you can also utilize it as a tool. And there are some people that do utilize negativity and doomness as a vehicle to create success. And I think that's the issue that some people take with the social universe as well, Dan. And there's no doubt last season you stood behind the team 100%. And I think everyone is entitled to their opinion, and you said it brilliantly. And I think that's a really great way to end the Get Off the Pottsy for episode 2 as well. Let me show you something really sexy though, Dan. All right.
Oh wow.
So I don't know if you've seen this, but Zenith Coins have come up with the Invincibles collection.
Oh wow.
Isn't that stunning?
That is.
And I'm going to be giving one away of these puppies. It retails for 149, but you get 15% off. Use code SQUAD15. And if that's unaffordable, there's also the North Bank coin as well, which you'll get 15% off. That's around 25, 30 quid. And then, of course, the original Arsenal coin as well. But if you're looking for a really lovely gift for someone close or a friend, or you want to gift yourself, you may as well get the whiskey on the side as well. Please do visit Zenith Coins, and don't forget to use 15% off as a Squaddy listener as well. And Football Prizes haven't announced the new competition for today, but keep an eye out for that on the social sphere. But that is a pretty sexy coin, isn't it, Dan?
Well, look, there's mine here. And
love that.
Yeah, I can say they are special. And this one was special in particular for other reasons. However, I will say, make sure you get over to Football Prizes and Zenith Coins because, yeah, listen, it's brilliant to have like collections, memorabilia, stuff like that if you're a gooner. So make sure you go do it, people. Check it out.
He's still trying to get a coin, Dan. Zenith Coins betrayed me.
Big up, Newman. Big up, Newman.
If anyone is part of the committee that decides if you get one, Newman, Lee Judges and Dan Potts are definitely going to have to be on that committee. Right, we've kept you longer than we promised, Dan. What's happening with the channel? Tell everyone what you're up to tomorrow and the rest of the week.
Big up. Listen, first of all, make sure you smash a like for Highbury Squad. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not done so already. Big up to everyone that joined me tonight and that joined over from my channel. Just dropped a show, the Arsenal Roundabout, which is a very fitting title for our show at the moment. With myself, Kenny, Gal, Northside, and Brandon and Premsy were on, talking all things Arsenal, just throwing some questions out there, really. It was actually quite a different panel debate, so go check that one out on Football's 12th Man. And if you could hit a like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it on the road to 30k. So big up to you. And Soph, big up to you, man.
Brilliant. Keep up the great work. And if you missed Dan on Inside Gunners on Talk Sport, please go check that out. Absolutely brilliant stuff. We're very proud of him. And he will always be a guest on the Highbury Squad. Thank you for your time. Thank you for bringing over a few of your friends with us as well to have a really respectful and enjoyable chat this evening. Thanks to our Chief Like Officer, Tammy Steele. That went off too quick. You know the rules here is essential. Freaking hell, my hands are everywhere. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. At ease, everyone. And thanks again. We'll see you on Thursday with Tom Canton for midweek musings.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.